think the most interesting game of the week from a talent perspective, there's always a lot of sidebars that you can dig into. The Seattle Seahawks have won their last two games by the same score. 19-3 over Arizona and 19-3 on the road at San Francisco. Who does that? Who gives up only 3 points 2 games in a row? If you look at the rankings of the Seattle team, they're third in scoring, giving up 18 points a game. Fifth against the rush, 86 yards per game. And third against passing, 199 per game. They're first in yards per game, giving up yards per game, 285. Now, they're playing on the road at Philadelphia, potential rain, maybe 40% chance of rain. Philadelphia's a good football team, and they are very likely to win the NFC East. And they just annihilated Dallas. And before that, they beat up, well, you don't get much feathers in your cap for this one. They beat Tennessee. They did get punished by Green Bay, and they beat Carolina. You know, you look at their, I mean, they have had some good wins and a couple of losses that didn't work out. But this is a good football team with a different style, way up tempo. They're gonna put a lot of pressure on the Seattle defense, but this Seattle defense is good. They're not quite what they were a year ago. They came off the Super Bowl. They had the Super Bowl champion slump, which happens to most teams that win the Super Bowl. They started out, they beat Green Bay at home in Seattle. Then they went on the road, lost to San Diego, beat Denver at home. And believe me, that game they won handily. It got close at the end, overtime, but shouldn't have. Then they went to Washington. I wasn't impressed with their win there, but they did win the game. Then they were at home against Dallas. They lost that game. They have not been the Seattle Seahawks of last year. But guess what? They got a couple of defensive players back. Their offense isn't dynamic in any stretch. They lost Golden Tate in the offseason. They got rid of Harvin during the season. They definitely are a running team. This is a team that likes to run the football. They're first in the league in running, 168 yards per game. And now they're playing Philadelphia, who, by the way, last week, offensively, the last 3 games, last week, 256, this is rushing stats, 164 the week before, 109 the week before. These are 2 running teams. The difference between Philadelphia and Seattle is Philadelphia runs a lot more plays. Their offense is on the field a very short period of time, they're cut right down the field, and their defense comes on. Seattle's tough, and they're physical, and they're not going to, Philadelphia hasn't seen anybody like this. So this is going to be a good football team. And I'll tell you, when you look at the line, the opening line on this game was 1 or pick Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia's supposed to be a pretty good football team, but they're not saying they're equal to Seattle. Otherwise, they'd be 2.5 to 4 points at home, which would be home field advantage. That's not the case. Right now, I'm looking across the board here, 1.5, 1, pick 'em. It's pretty much stayed the same, and so they're giving Seattle a lot of credit for what they've been doing the last couple of weeks. This is going to be a physical football game. You got the monster, the man-child, I can't even remember the nickname he has, but then you got Wilson at quarterback against Mark Sanchez has played absolutely great. I was in Dallas for the game. Philadelphia beat them, and Sanchez looked great. And first 2 series, 88 and 80 yards right down the field, was 14-0 before you could blink. Dallas didn't show up, and Seattle will show up. This is big. They have to catch Arizona. They got to stay in the hunt for a wild card or the division. This is big. I don't believe Philadelphia has the pressure on them that Seattle does, but they do see in the rearview mirror Dallas. And if Dallas gets by Chicago on Thursday, and they're expected to because they're a small favorite, that puts a little bit more pressure on Philadelphia. But this is going to be good. This is the game of the day right here. Seattle at Philadelphia.